let's get some questions from some of the younger folk here. We'll just sort of, we're going to play Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, and where I stop, you'll have to ask a question. I'm just joking. I hate you with an everlasting contempt. Okay, yes?
This isn't exactly like an incredibly difficult question, but I've always just sort of wondered this. What can you say to someone when they're dealing with trauma or loss or some huge event in their life, whether it just happened or it happened a long time ago, and they're like really angry or bitter about it or just sad? Like, what can you say to someone other than God has a plan for your life and this isn't like
Sure.
the whole extent of your life? Like, what can you say?
Is this person in this scenario also questioning God's love? Or is it just normal grief?
Well, both situations. I mean, like, what if the person, did question that, or
Okay.
what if they knew it anyway?
Did everyone hear the question? Basically, is what do you talk to somebody who's just going through grief, etc., etc.? And that day when Laura died, I was faced with that, and I remember sitting in the classroom, and all of a sudden this crying kid comes in and sits down, and he's just sitting in my class crying, and I'm teaching, and he's crying. Like, I didn't think I was that bad, And then in another minute, somebody else came in crying. I'm, all right, what is going on? And I opened the door, and the hallways were just filled with people just weeping. And eventually, all the classrooms emptied out, and all the kids sort of gravitated towards the teachers that they resonated most with. So in time, I had about 15, 20 kids, and they were angry with me because I was the religion teacher speaking for God, I guess. It's like, okay, everyone, just settle down here. And I have no idea what I said then. But I know what I would say now. This would be one of the critical differences in Christianity. When we think about God sometimes, we think of Him in this sort of grandfatherly way, issuing rules and decrees and things of that sort. That's not the God of Christianity. The whole heart of Christianity is a God who looked into the suffering and agony of the human race and said, I'm going to do something about it. And it wasn't enough to just do a temporary solution. Like, think about Job. Have you read the book of Job? All of it?
I don't simply remember everything.
Okay, read the whole book. The whole book of Job is fascinating. The first 3 chapters, just everything just falls out from underneath him. Loses his kids, loses his crops. His wife is giving him grief about it. And then his best friends show up and say, well, Job, you must have done something wrong. And Job's like, I didn't do anything wrong. In fact, if God shows up, I'll tell it to his face. And then God shows up, and Job can't think of anything to say anymore. And what God says at that point is He gives this litany of things like, were you there when the waters were set and the foundations of the earth were laid? Were you there when this baby was born? Things of that sort. And the whole point of Job then, and Job is satisfied with this, by the way. He doesn't have anything to say. The whole point is God saying, I'm involved in every aspect of creation, including the suffering and the agony. And He didn't just leave it there. He came down on the planet Himself and endured life as a human being. We don't know what happened to his father Joseph, really. He sort of falls off the map a little bit. But we can assume he probably died of old age. And Jesus would have been around, would have seen that. And certainly, the time when Jesus was here, was the Romans were not nice people, and probably a lot of the people that Jesus cared about had died at the hands of the Romans, perhaps crucified. I mean, He probably dealt with this. But the point is, when it was all said and done, He took all the suffering and all the agony and all the sin, and He put it on His own Son. Now, if I don't quite know if there's a real intellectual answer that comes out of that, but there's one thing that we can say for sure, is that God understands. And even if we don't know the reasons why or how we get there or where we go from there, we know that God knows exactly what we're going through. what it feels like, and He also knows that there's going to be a final end where He sets things right. And I would focus on the fact that God knows what we're going through, rather than trying to comfort people with the idea that there might be a plan or a good that comes out of it. Because people, even if that's true, they don't want to hear that. And there's something to be said about coming alongside somebody who is going through something. Well, there's nothing like God coming alongside them, having gone through the same thing.